So, welcome back to FPL and FPLIQ. I'm joined once again by Ryan, MS28, which is Football Chat Box, FPL Planet TN, and Teacher FPL Lucian. Hopefully, everyone is doing well. So we'll say hellos before we go into the agenda. So, Ryan, how's your little break from FPL been?
It feels like a much more longer break. It feels like longer than usual international breaks as well. And we're still like one more week away from the next deadline. Oh, less than one more week now. But it's been good. It's also been boring in terms of like the football and all. I haven't really been keeping up too much. Games have been split. Maybe FA Cup will see a bit of interesting fixtures, but yeah, it's been quite boring in terms of the football side.
I agree.
But yeah.
Just like one or two games a day for a couple of days and then nothing for a week. Like, yeah, it's been nice to have a break, but it feels like we just had a break, so I didn't need this one to be so laggy. But we knew it was coming with all the planning. Tien, how have you been on your break? A longer break than us.
Yeah, no, it feels like forever. So luckily I booked a family holiday over this break, so I managed to keep myself busy with a lot of swimming and theme park roller coasters and stuff, and just enjoying that ride of up and down to like my overall rank. No, it's been fun. But yeah, I just checked my transfer history. My last transfer was made on the 30th of December. So it was like almost a month ago. So I can't wait to get back to some FPL decision making.
Back. And Lucian, I think you're the same as me, right? We're on are you on Chinese New Year break or Lunar New Year break as well now?
Break? What is this thing called break? I think the irony is that I've just started work actually. My Lunar New Year break doesn't begin for another week and a half or so. So I'm just like, whoop, it's okay. Yeah, I'm feeling the full force of the grind as I've been for the last 3 weeks. I actually, you know what? I probably have the privilege to say that for once, like I have my voice back. I've not had my voice back since New Year's Day. So yeah, Happy New Year, everybody. It's glad to be here with y'all.
I've got 3 weeks off. Finally, that's why, especially this break for me is actually come at a good time because it was crunch time at work at the end of the semester, but finally got a bit of breathing space. Let's go into FPL, back into the agenda then. So we're going to kick off with just two little talking points just to chat about hot topics in FPL, where we're looking at Haaland and KDB, City Slickers, potentially back in action as soon as the next Premier League game. And we're going to have an FA Cup tie to see whereabouts these guys are going to be. And then also just any more updates on our chip thoughts and plans, because we had thought about last time we had a sort of initial reaction when all of these double game weeks and stuff had been announced, and now we're getting more of a solid idea about potential game week 26 plans and blanks and what that might do for maybe some free hits going on in there as well. Before looking at Liverpool, Chelsea, where we look at Liverpool without Salah and any Chelsea assets to look at in the match itself. Spurs against Brentford, Spurs assets without Son. Brentford as well, worth looking at with Toney back in action there in the match itself, before finishing off with captaincy and any questions and answers chat. So, let's just start then with the Manchester City boys. Kevin De Bruyne back, 21 minutes and 12 points, goal and an assist. What more do you want from him coming back after such a long layoff? But he himself has said he is not fully fit yet. Okay. Just as a quick side note, Lucian, can you mute your mic when you're not on? Just because I'm hearing feedback from just said. Got it. There we go. All right. So, thinking about Manchester City, when to bring back Haaland and KDB, cautious part of it is just going to be watch the FA Cup and see how many minutes they get, right? But let's have a look at some hypotheticals around the FPL IQ gentlemen and who of the two are we looking to bring back? I think we're all looking at Haaland, but KDB might be on the radar with Salah and Son away AFCON and Salah now injured for potentially 3 or 4 weeks. And when is the right time to? Is it better to jump before and just a few minutes, still get them in, or are we going to wait 90 minutes? Because the next game is Burnley, which is just if it was like, I don't know, Chelsea away, you'd probably just be like, right, I'll just give it that game. But the fact that it's Burnley at home, and if Haaland gets a good chunk of minutes in the FA Cup and plays that, and he looks good, are you going to risk not having him back in for when he could be a captaincy differential? I say differential because he'll still be sort of 40-50% owned, but he's not been as low as that for like the entire season. So we'll just go around, starting with Ryan. Then Ryan, what are your thoughts on the two City boys potentially back in action?
So I've already got double City in terms of assets. I think most of us here probably already. I think Tian has one, if I'm not mistaken, in terms of City players, and the rest of us have double City. Rob, I know you and myself both have Bernardo and Foden, if I'm correct.
Yep.
Yes. So that means we kind of have to decide on either KDB or Haaland. So my priority would be always on Haaland, just because he is, end of the day, the talisman, will be on penalties if he's playing and all of that stuff. So he will be my pick. And so that way I can't go for KDB unless I decide to do like a sideways switch, which I probably won't do because I think Bernardo and Foden still are pretty good for minutes as well, to be honest, compared to KDB, who we still think might get drip fed into the team, won't necessarily come back and play full 90. Now they had the game against Spurs as well, which we kind of have to see. And if KDB plays a lot more minutes in there, what's his like minutes going to be like against Burnley? Because the time period between the games also is not too long. So I'm leaning towards going for Haaland. The question is, when is this going for Haaland going to happen? Because every week I'm like, oh, maybe I'll save money for Haaland. And the next week I'm like, okay, maybe I'll save money for Haaland. I'm still waiting for this Haaland move to happen. That's still not happening. So maybe this week, if we see him in the Spurs squad on the bench at least, then, and if we get some news potentially before the deadline that he could play the Burnley game, then I'll bring him in and give him the armband. If not, I'll have to just wait another week for this Haaland move. So that's where I sit at the moment. But with KDB, I understand the temptation. We know what he's capable of. He showed us in that 20 minutes. The question is, are you willing to, I guess it depends on your risk appetite and how much you're willing to like go towards in terms of that player and accept the fact that he might get like a game of 20 minutes. He could also get a game of 60 minutes, 70 minutes or longer. It depends on the game state as well. And depends on how much Pep needs him. Sometimes if City are cruising through, he might not even bring him on. That's also a possibility. So completely depends on game state for City and in terms of managing his minutes. But for me, Haaland at the moment.
I'm not looking at KDB, not for 10.5 million. And with the structure that I've got, like I'm holding Salah still. I looked at some point, but not looking at Haaland and sorry, KDB. And like I said earlier, he said himself, I'm not quite there yet, which is scary because he's just got a goal and an assist, not being fully fit. But I've always said, like, in that sort of quarterback role, he's so good. He's unique in his ability. I know that, but just personally, we choose midfielders who play as strikers, who play as wide forwards or wingers who cut inside, right? Like a Mo Salah. And KDB's just not that at all. He's someone who is deep and someone who you will find outside the 18-yard box. 10.5 million. And I think, like yourself, Ryan, we've both got Bernardo and Foden, and Haaland probably when fit. I'm not too worried about not having. Jen, have you got thoughts? When are you bringing him back in? Both of them or one of them?
Yeah, so currently I only have Foden, so I have two spots left for Man City, and I think with the double in 25, and they have no blank in 26. I think it's really crucial that everyone's priority should be trying to triple up on Man City as soon as possible. So obviously Haaland is a number one priority. And it looks like every day he's posting, his pictures in training. Looks pretty fit. So yeah, well, we'll see how if we get any more news before the Spurs game. But it looks like he's likely to be fit for Burnley. So I think he's got to be a priority. For me, the third spot is a little bit trickier. And I mean, I agree with both of you. I'm personally not keen on KDB because if I pay 10.5 million for someone, I mean 90 minutes is first and foremost the number one criteria. Like you got to be starting games every game. Like of course for Man City, there's no guarantee that anyone start every game, but then at least he need to start most games and occasional benching. Whereas at the moment, he's already come out and said that he can't start games. He can only play 20, 25 minutes. So, of course, he's a world-class player. So he can score in 20 minutes, as we've already seen. But that just you're playing the odds, right? Playing more minutes mean more chance of scoring and scoring points. So there'll be more chance of him having a 1 point cameos than returning in those 20 minutes. So yeah, for 10.5 million, that's too much for me. So I think it'll, of course, it will change if he, let's say he starts against Spurs, for example, then that changes everything because then it indicates that he's fit and ready to start. But other than that, if it's still the same, then I think it will be a choice between getting a Bernardo Silva like yourself, or Doku if I want to be a bit more punty. So that'll be tripling up on the attacks, which generally I'm not a big fan of. Like tripling up on any attacks is it's a bit too risky. Like you put too many eggs in one basket. So the alternative would be just getting a defender, in which Walker would be the standout choice for me. So, but yeah, I'm in no rush. So I'll try to get Haaland first, and then I'll wait and see who will be my third Man City player.
And I don't want to jump ahead of the next chat. We're going to talk about future planning and things with game week 26 and 29 blanks, but we're going to be triple City. At least Ryan and I will be triple City, and I think maybe Lucian will be if he gets Haaland in again as well. Game week 29, they're going to blank, so we need to decide really if we're going to be free hitting or dead ending by that point. So if you are looking to bring in Man City players, do keep an eye on a chart that we're going to look at later and the probabilities of blanks and now we know 95% sure teams that are blanking game week 26. Just now you really need to start thinking, when am I going to free hit? When am I going to wild card? When am I going to triple captain? And Lucian, your thoughts on these two?
Sorry, I'm just trying to be systematic about this. Right. Yeah, Burnley. Well, there's a short-term and a long-term dilemma, isn't there? Like, we by default want 3 Man City players against Burnley, and then at some point in the future, we want the right combination of 3 Man City players for the 25 double. And then somehow, some way, we need to have enough free transfers to not suffer too heavily in the 26 blanks. I think that's the summary of all our thoughts right now, right? So, if we look at what's in front of us, literally, yeah, Burnley, I mean, everyone's expecting 5-0, right? Or 6-1 or something like that. And Ryan's already touched on City's mentality, their state of mind when they're 1-0 up, 3-0 up. I mean, how do we even know if City is going to be winning 6-1, right? How do we even know that? I mean, how do we even know when KDB will actually be involved? Yes, we know that KDB can do wonders. But do we want KDB to produce wonders all the time? Because we can't assume that KDB himself will be, conjuring magic like minute after minute. And that's where I find, we need to actually look at the real aspect of a football match. And we ask ourselves, right? Like, if KDB does come on and contribute, whether he plays, starts, doesn't finish the game, comes on with a cameo, just like Newcastle, like, what do we realistically expect out of 10.5 million? Because I do find that, you look at the nature of the 12 points he got against Newcastle. One of it was literally a world-class shot from outside. Dubravka, absolutely no chance. And the other was a world-class assist for Oscar Bob, who, didn't even get into a good position to receive KDB's pass. But that
Lovely
pass itself,
touch.
as well as that touch, taking away the defender, like all of it coming together, it's the same temptation, not ability. It's the same temptation when we are buying Man United players at the peak of their powers, because we know Man United players have the talent. Same thing here, right? KDB is coming back from injury. We know that they have the talent, but how often will they use it? Because we love teams such as Brighton, Brentford, and whatever, because we know that they smash teams in week after week, and that's kind of why we, overinflate the value of Spurs, which I will explain on later on. But yeah, I mean, for me, realistically, I think if anybody talks about KDB at all, right, I don't think we can assume anything. We can't look that far into the future, but we can at least assume that he will get one assist, maybe bonus, depending on how many minutes he plays and how many passes he gets in. And then you have to just make moves, or like evaluate potential moves for your team that can do better than that. Because KDB is a huge outlay. And when Salah comes back, everyone will face a real pressure to fit Salah, Haaland, and KDB. I mean, as it is, right? Early season, we were trying to fit Salah, Haaland, and Son. And it basically made our teams crumble, right? Some of us went without Son. Some of us tried to fit all three, and it looked terrible. And the people out there who have really high ranks right now probably are showing off because they never had Haaland for most of the season. So we're looking at this going like, like you buy KDB now, but when Salah comes back, we'll have to, scrape the barrel for money, even though we're like super loaded right now. So that I'll end on that note.
I think we're all pretty certain that if Haaland gets any minutes, he's in. KDB is, even if he's got minutes, he's probably going to be in. Which yeah, I agree with, and that feels like it's the group thing. But the only thing that we'll talk about later with captaincy is because captaincy is so important this year. I do feel that I will risk buying Haaland if he's played some minutes in the FA Cup. I don't think I'll risk captaining him. Because if I'm not sure he's going to start, I don't want my captain to come off the bench. That's something we'll talk about at the end of. So we'll just jump over to having a look at our new impressions on when to play our chips. So Jen pointed me in the direction of the Transfer Algorithms Twitter page, who is at Mikkel Tokvam. Or I've butchered the name. I think he's Scandinavian of sorts. And he uses bookmakers' odds and Ben Krelin statements. So, of course, Ben Krelin, the godfather of planning blanks and doubles, and he's taken that and sort of put some numbers towards blanks. As I did sort of briefly say earlier, now Ben Krelin's words, not mine. 95% sure Luton, Liverpool, Spurs, and Chelsea will blank in game week 26 because Liverpool and Chelsea did the cup. It's
I think that's
100%.
100% because I saw yesterday an article from the Premier League website that stated if Liverpool were to progress, they would blank in 26.
Well, just to cover our arses, I'm going to say 95%.
Yeah.
So then if it is, I don't want people coming back saying, oh, these four guys just said it was 100% and I played my wild card and I did all of this. Oh, 95%. But yeah, it's almost 100. Now, before we'll have our own personal twist on this. Please, warning, caveat. It is your team dependent. If you are sat there and you have I don't know, Gallagher, Palmer, Nkunku, Porro, Richarlison, Brennan John, like if you, Morris, Kabore, all in your team for some reason, you're probably going to free hit in 26 because you've got like 12 players from the 4 teams that are blanking, right? So please always make sure that whatever advice you listen to or whichever content creators or whatever you see on Twitter, please make sure you judge it on the players that you've got, not what everyone says, because everyone talks from their own point of view. So game week 26 right now, I have 1 Liverpool player, I have 1 Spurs player, and I have 1 Chelsea player. That's it. So as of right now, with 4 game weeks left to go, I don't have to do anything because 3 bench players. I don't have to free hit in 26. But if you are sat there with 2 Spurs, 2 Chelsea, 3 Liverpool, you might need to start to think I'm going to take hits to get them out, or I'm going to free hit in 26. The same with 25. If you're stacked with City, Brentford players, you're probably not going to free hit in 25 because you've got that. But if you've got no Liverpool and no City and no Brentford, you might free hit in 25 and don't need it. Always remember that whatever advice you hear is completely in regards to what people's own teams are. Okay. As for my early thoughts, I've already said I've only got 1 player from each side of the blankers in 26. So I'm not looking to free hit in 26. I'm still looking to triple captain in 25. However, this might depend on the confirmation of more doubles being added to 25. If more doubles get added to 25, because I only have Salah, I don't have Trent or Diogo Jota or something like that, I will have 3 City, so that'll feel a little bit like a waste. But I can get a couple of Brentford, 1 Luton player to sit on my bench, 3 Liverpool. I could free hit in 25. It's a possibility. When is Spurs potentially blanking? That's 26, but they might
blanking,
double in 20.
26.
Could they get a double in
26.
25?
I think Ben Crichton said that it's possible, but it's unlikely.
Because it might get televised. So again, what we're saying right now is before that's being confirmed. But again, if Spurs gets a double in 25, that might be another situation that makes us pull the trigger. So I'm still thinking triple captain 25, free transfers at 26, dead end into 29, 30 pull the wild card, and then free hit for one of the doubles later in the season, 34 or 37. But if more doubles get added, I might even bring in more doublers for 25, free hit in 26, and then dead end to 20. So that's still my early thoughts. So we get a bit more confirmed. Ryan, have you got your early plan sort of penciled in?
The only thing that I think I know is probably wildcard somewhere 30, 31, somewhere around that time. Every other chip is completely in the air until the FA Cup draw for the next round on Sunday. Because even I would like to tinker now because I have moves that are going in my head, but I'm like, there's no point in me tinkering because something will happen in the FA Cup that the magic of the cup, and then you're like, maybe Spurs beat City because Spurs have a great record against City, and then like, oh, okay, all this planning was pointless. So you kind of have to wait till the FA Cup fixtures are done, and then only decide what to do. Now, I'm like you, Rob, in terms of I don't I have only 3 of one. I have Trent, I have Palmer, and I've got Porro. In terms of the players who will blank in 26. Now, I could probably add 1 more Liverpool player if they were to double in 25. And then I'll just navigate via transfers in terms of not wanting to try and free hit in 26, because I feel like a lot of people. It'll depend on everyone's, again, team dependent and all of that. Because I've seen people with like 2 Chelsea, 2 Spurs and all, and it's going to be harder with free transfers to navigate that. But I think I should be able to navigate the team without having to free hit. I could probably take a hit maybe to resolve it if I need to. On 25, now you mentioned you playing a free hit potentially. It depends on how the doubles and everything goes. I'm also thinking kind of have to figure out where to play this triple captainship. The 25 might be a good week to play triple captaincy, either on a Haaland or if Salah is fit and ready before 25. Maybe it's a good fixture for Liverpool as well. The double could probably play it on Salah as well, because I think from what I was listening to James from Planet FPL is that 34 and 37 will be two different like doubles, but the fixtures for some of the big teams won't be as attractive as what it is now for 25. So then you're like, okay, where would you play your triple captaincy then? If you don't want to play it on Salah and Haaland in 25, where exactly are you going to play? So I kind of had to think about that. All of that will again completely depend on what happens in the FA Cup and the draw.
I'm a little less bothered with the triple captaincy chip because that always feels like the punty chip. Like I won't plan
Yeah.
my whole squad around, oh, I need it for these fixtures, because one triple captain against an entire 11 of doublers, it's a no contest. Just as a bottom line, how I feel about it is, if you're an attacking manager, you free hitting 25. You stack with 11 and you deal with 26 and 29. If you're a defensive move, and a defensive manager, it feels like you try and get doublers in 25, but don't take too many hits, and then free hitting 29 with whoever is scrapping. Because it always feels like in history, like 25, you'll have 11 doublers, and then if you free hit, and in 29, you might be fielding 6 players. Or
Yeah, I
in
think a lot of us
25,
might.
you just deal with it. We try and get some doublers in. Maybe you've got 4 players that double. And then in 29, you free hit, but you've got a whole squad of players. It always feels like that's the way. Like, people will use it to have a comfortable blank or use it to attack a double. And Ryan and Lucien, you two have your bench boost, right?
Yes.
And me and
Yeah.
Tien haven't. This is way back at the start of the season when I used it in game week 1. This was a reason why people are going to have to throw that chip in either after their wild card and hope deep into the season in game week 34 or 37, teams aren't going to start messing around with their teams. You know, City's deep in a Europe competition and they've got a double game week. Probably not going to play, and they've got the semi-final of the Champions League. Probably not going to, and they've wrapped up the title. Not going to be messing around with that. That's something people need to consider as well, because bench boost in 25 could work, and then free hit in 29. I haven't listened to that Planet
Probably.
FPL
Haven't given
episode
it thought, but maybe. Yeah.
I haven't listened
Like,
to it yet about the chips, and I didn't want to. I love the stuff that they do. I just didn't want to listen to it before now, because it'll influence my thinking. So I haven't, as
Yeah,
much
true.
as Planet FPL do great content, I haven't listened to anyone's chips, because if I do, I won't follow it, but that'll influence my thinking. So I'm sure it's great, and I will listen to it once I've sort of thought about.
The other way of attacking could also be like, you again, this depends on the chips that people have, right? Because you could potentially use that free hit, like you mentioned, dead ending in 29. So you could potentially even use the free hit in 34 or 37. If you have a bench boost, maybe you wildcard in like the 30-31, bench boost in 34, and then free hit for the next big double in 37. So you can build your squad accordingly, where you don't have to think about 37 in terms of trying to build a squad for that. So that's also another way of attacking in one way, I would say.
The only thing that worries me about this dead end is, say you start dead ending from 25, 26, and we know Brentford, Luton, Fulham are playing in game week 29. You're going to have add players that you don't really want for like 3 game weeks. So, like, you know what I mean? Just because you don't want a free hit in a blank and you dead end instead, you are sacrificing 1 free hit in blank 29, but you're sacrificing, if you don't do that, you're going to have like 3 game weeks of having to field Fulham, Brentford, and Luton players because you've dead ended, and you're having to sell City players and Spurs players and Arsenal players, and whoever you think is good in your team, right? That's another decision you have to make. If you are not free hitting in 29 and you are just going to dead end, for like 4 game weeks, you're going to be selling teams that you like and bringing in players from teams that you don't. So again, that's why I've always played my free hit in a bigger blank, because every game week I'm comfortable with, rather than, oh yeah, I'm gonna sell Phil Foden for Wisa. Like it's just making transfers like that. And Jen, what are your as our resident planner, your early plan?
Yeah, so it's extremely hard because there's so much that we don't know at this stage, and hopefully we'll know a lot more after the weekend. But I think, yeah, as you've already mentioned, like people should really start looking at their teams and seeing where they will land in 25 and 26, and at least have some ideas of what but the potential strategy might be, because it impacts the transfers that we're making now. Like we can't just make random transfers now and then suddenly come 25 and 26, oh Jesus, I've got like 7 blind players. What do I do now? Because that's that is the opposite of planning, right? So I think with the double, we still waiting to see whether Liverpool and Luton get added or not. It seems quite likely that fixture will be added. So and then yeah, game week 26. So as of now, all 4 teams, so Liverpool, Luton, Chelsea, and Spurs, their fixtures have been postponed. But there's still no guarantee that it doesn't 100% mean that the fixtures will be completely gone from game week 26, because there's still a very slim possibility that if both teams are out of the FA Cup, their fixture could be put into the midweek of that same week, which still stay into game week 26. So that's why the FA Cup results are so important. All 4 teams are still in the FA Cup. Liverpool is unlikely to lose, so I think that fixture is very likely to be blank and likely to be put in 25. Chelsea and Spurs, Ben Crellin reckon that even if both teams lose out of the FA Cups, which are possible, the fixtures will still be put in a later game week instead of 26, because of the TV, schedule and all that. So yeah, watch out for Ben Crellin. But in any case, we might or might not get confirmation by the game week 22 deadline, and that's a problem. So we still have to make transfers with some of the unknowns, even with the FA Cup results and all. But the fixtures might not be announced by then. I think the average teams will probably have 5 players that are blank in game week 26. So a lot of people will try to increase their Liverpool players, especially if they do double in 25. That means that potentially people will have 3 Liverpool players. Everyone will have Palmer and everyone will have Porro. So that's 5. All right, and a lot more people will have like Richarlison and Gusto or someone else from Spurs and Chelsea. So you could potentially have like 7 or 8 blank players, and obviously we only have, what is it, 3 or 4 free transfer between now and then. So I think that's why your transfers will be very, very important. And thinking about a strategy. For example, if you think that you're gonna free hit in 26, then you don't care, right? You just load up on Chelsea, Spurs, and Liverpool players, and then you free hit in 26.
Then you're stuck in 29 to do that.
Well, you've got more time in 29, so that's the rationale of if you free it in 26, and you have to deal with 29 with 3 transfers, obviously. So free hit, as you said, free hit in 26 is an option. But I think removing those big teams, there's not a lot of options, and a lot of people will have like triple cities already. So your free hit team will probably be the same as a lot of teams that are not on free hit. So the appeal of the free hit also reduces there. And obviously without the free hit, it's harder to navigate the bigger playing in 29 and potentially the doubles in 34 and 37 as well. And as you said, the other strategy is to free hit 25. If teams do not have a lot of players at double in 25, that is a viable strategy. In which case, your transfer will just be focusing on having a good team of 26, for example, and then just free it in 25. The same caveat applies that you won't have the free hit for the later, arguably trickier game weeks from 29 onwards. So a lot to think about, obviously, and watch out for the FA Cup results and what Ben Cralen got to say after Sunday. But as things stands for my team, I'm thinking triple captain in 25 for the reason that Ryan already said, that both Haaland and Salah, if Liverpool do double, have really good fixtures. So obviously, depending on their fitness levels, either could be a great triple captain candidate. And then it'll be dead ending to 29, wildcard in 30, and then free hit in either 34 or 37. So I don't have the bench boost as Rob said, so that makes things a little bit easier for me. I don't have to worry about wildcarding into a bench boost team. I just wildcard to have my best 11 to navigate one of the big doubles, and then free hit in the other double to the end of the season. So that's the current thinking, but obviously things could change. And I'm personally generally not a big fan of dead ending into a blank game week, is for the reason that Rob already said, that you're buying good players you're selling good players to buy bad players for a few weeks just to avoid not having enough players to play in that blank game week. So the benefit might be outweighed by the impact on your team over that 3 or 4 game weeks. So generally I would normally prefer to free hit in a blank game week, a big blank game week. Then the transfers on either side, I can just make without worrying about that blank game week. But we'll see. We'll just need to see what the blank game week look like first. So it's all up in the air.
Yeah, the more I think about it, and when I said about dead ending, I do love it as a tactic. But as soon as we know who is sort of for sure blanking in 29, I just feel like I'd rather not sacrifice game week 26, 27, 28, 29 just so I can save a free hit for one game week. I'd rather just keep all the City and Liverpool and Arsenal and Spurs players and what have you, and just free hit in 29, and then have game weeks 26 to 29 as being happy, normal times. Wildcard if I need it. I might not even need to walk.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. Like if you have the good City players, the good Liverpool players, the good Spurs players, then that might be a good strategy to free hit in 29 and you don't have to wildcard in 30. Right? But if you have the wrong players from those teams, then it makes it a very viable strategy, because then you sell the underperforming City and Liverpool and Chelsea and Spurs players, and then you wildcard the good one in from 30. So yeah, it really depends on the state of your team after
This is
26,
why,
I think.
this is why the FA Cup is important, because like Aston Villa play Chelsea, right? If Chelsea lose to Villa, that means Chelsea and Arsenal will play in game week 29 as a confirmed fixture, because Arsenal are already out of the cup. And then again, you have the City versus Spurs game. If Spurs lose, and then I think Spurs play, who do they play? They play Fulham. in 29, and Fulham play Newcastle in the FA Cup. So let's say Fulham also lose, you get that fixture as well. This is where then it comes into like, okay, so you'll have people who already like double Spurs, double Chelsea already could potentially again pre-hit in 26 so that they don't have to like remove their players and then have those players in 29. So it all depends on the FA Cup fixtures this week and also the draw for that. And then we won't get the confirmed blanks of 29 until like the round 5 of the FA Cup, which is after 26 or during 26. So you'll have only like 2 weeks to kind of react between 26 to 29 in terms of the blanks, actual blanks. But at least we'll know what fixtures possibly could happen before that. So yeah, it depends on this weekend actually, to be honest.
Correct. So finishing off then, Lucian. I'm pretty sure now. Triple captain 25, free hit 29, wildcard 30. Settled, done. I've penned it in. I'm not even penciling it. Lucian, what are your really thoughts?
I think, well, Rob, I don't know if you need to mute your speakers for feedback purposes, but yeah, I'm listening to all of this. In fact, I was listening to Tian's poetic speech, and I wondered to myself, who's listening? You know, I love sharing my plans, and I love hearing everyone else's plans. But I think at some point, all of our plans get really complicated because we've got so many unknowns to deal with, right? 25, 29, everything in between. We're talking about time frames, and I'd just like to take a little bit of time first and foremost to empathize with the audience trying to keep up with all of this. Yeah, I really feel that we should have created a template PDF to share on Twitter before we, got everyone to listen to us. Because we've got, yeah, I feel bad. I feel bad. I genuinely do. But I would say though that I think this season in particular, in terms of decision making, I have tried as much as possible not to do anything until I see an opportunity. So obviously I've tried a little bit too often, but I still take the attitude of closing myself out from every possible information that might corrupt my decision making before actually, making the decision. So in some sense, we've got a whole bunch of games that have yet to happen in front of us, but we can at least speculate what is 50-50 and what is confirmed, such as, the whole Liverpool Luton thing. And yes, I think the first emphasis we need to make is on triple captaincy, because unlike Rob, I do feel that I have much more control over the returns of my triple captain compared to my bench boost. So in that sense, when I choose something or somebody for a triple captain candidacy, I absolutely have to make sure that the stars align for that particular player to deliver like 10 points per match if I slam the triple captaincy on the guy. I'm not doing it for the fun of it. Even if the fixtures are good, I will look for actual tactical weaknesses so that everything lines up. And yes, of course, 25 is a huge potential, triple captain candidates everywhere, City, Liverpool, whatnot, right? And their fixtures aren't hard at all. So I mean, I do feel though, at this stage we're like still not 20 game week 22 is not even started, and I will stick to the basics just for everyone's benefit, literally, right? Especially the audience. So, condition number one, basic condition number one, KDB and Haaland have to be playing 90 minutes in game week 24 itself. That is the absolute premise that we must see, so that we even consider playing triple captaincy on Man City in game week 25. I am stating the obvious, I am aware, but that is like the sole rule I live by right now before we have anything fall into place. Secondly, triple captaining Salah in 25 against Luton and Brentford, if I'm not mistaken, right? Absolute trap. I don't think Brentford, because the Liverpool are away at Brentford, right? Yeah, in that 25. So that is an absolute nonsense fixture unless Salah wins a penalty somehow. So I'm definitely not going to captain Salah. It is going to be a choice that people make because they do not dare captain Man City. So really, it is just a matter of opportunity, looking for that golden stars align moment where you slam your triple captaincy based on two good fixtures that are impossible to be bad. You need to have your triple captain nail returns in both games. Doesn't matter how high it goes. That is definitely my triple captaincy principle, whether I'm attacking or defending against whatever. Now, the free hit is a bit tricky because I do agree to both sides of the argument, whether you use a free hit on a blank or whether you use a free hit on a double game week. I think both have their merits. But uh that's the candidates are even further away, right? No one's gonna do a free hit on a 25. So I'm not gonna expand into that at all. And I'd like Chat to be assured that nobody, barely anybody, I think only people who worship Pras FPL would be like discussing using their free hits right now. And on the same note, their second wild card. I think it's way too soon to discuss anything because the biggest mystery here, once again, for everyone's benefit, we don't know which fixture drops on which game week. Some might drop on 31, some might drop on 32, some might 34, 37. We don't know at all. I don't even think Ben Krellin, the god himself, knows like where fixtures will drop until way later when TV schedules sorted out. And yeah, so we've just got to leave it. Just focus on triple captaincy and leave everything else be until February, mid-February. Yeah, I'll just end it there.
Right, fair points. I just sometimes feel like I want to live a little with triple captaincy, but the fact that City and Liverpool are the teams doubling, it just screams Haaland or Salah. It's a shame that that's the double that have it. Speaking of Liverpool, they are the focus this week because it's at home. Chelsea. The first question we're going to look at: Liverpool assets without Salah. So Diogo Jota took the headlines last time, and I do think he's fantastic if he stays fit. In fact, Tien and I in the chat just recommended him as a player that if you've got 3 City, who would you be looking at? And it would be one of them. He is excellent. He did play well against Bournemouth. I feel like the scoreline and the goals were a little bit lucky. But the problem with Jota is when Salah's back and fit, we're still fitting Diaz, Nunez, Gakpo, and Jota into 2 positions. So the issue always with Diogo Jota is 1, can he stay fit, and 2, can he stay in the side? But if he keeps scoring all the goals, it's going to be tough to not keep fitness. That usually is the issue. An interesting point I saw on Twitter from FPL Giambatra. It feels like I've got like anti-Saka sentiments this season. He's just frustrated me so much. His ownership is so high, and I always feel his points are so lucky. But the fact that Saka's got 34 more points than Diogo Jota, but 999 more minutes. So that really shows everything really about Jota. The fact that he's such an explosive attacking threat, but also highlights the issue of his minutes due to injury. So if you are looking for Liverpool assets for Game Week 25 double, if Salah's back before then, again, just remember injury for Jota and you fit in 4 attacking players, not including Salah because he nailed one. You fit in 4 into 2, which is always a problem. Aside from that, with Liverpool assets, Trent is one that people held. If he is, he could be back for the next game. But he's one, again, that I still feel 8 million plus for a defender who I don't think will keep a lot of clean sheets. It's an issue. So I wouldn't really be looking at anymore. Not really looking at the defenders. There's Jota, potentially, because he's cheaper. I've had Diaz before. Nothing excites me. Darwin Núñez frustrates every single person who brings him in. So just for me, it's Salah and maybe Jota. You're looking for more Game Week 20. I think Trent's too expensive, and I don't see clean sheets. So when he got all those points, that run of fixtures, that was a green run of fixtures that he had. He should have been getting those returns. He's not got a green run of fixtures. That's my feeling about Liverpool assets. Not. We'll go reverse order this time. So Lucian, what are your thoughts on any other Liverpool assets or Liverpool as a whole without Mo Salah.
Yeah, the strange thing about Liverpool without Salah is that we've only had one Premier League game and one FA Cup game without him so far. Am I right?
League
Right,
Cup,
we've
League
got
Cup
that.
as well.
Yeah.
League
Oh,
Cup. They had Fulham
right.
1-1
I did not. Yeah. Did I watch? I watched
last
one
night, I
of the
think.
Fulham games. Yeah, I
Last
didn't
night.
watch the one last night, but I think I did catch the first leg. So yes, one FA Cup game which was full of second stringers. One one League Cup game which had some moments, and yes, one 4-0 win against Bournemouth, right? Whew. Yeah, Liverpool are a mess. Absolute mess. Like hot mess. Like Barbie. Yeah. Um really, I mean it in the absolute sense, because I do recall making all sorts of analyses with Gabe from that hall when Salah left. And the one thing that we all agreed was that Diogo Jota was gonna fly as the number 9. So lineups come out and all these returns flow in, right? And it's still Darwin Núñez as the number 9, Diaz on the left, Jota on the right. It's weird people in weird positions. So the question we have to ask ourselves, fine, we've got to get used to an awkward system, even though Klopp's philosophy is not consistent in the first place. Then we look at 90-minute potential players, right? Because fine, if we don't know the system, we can at least invest in people who play 90 minutes. Then we see Gakpo, Jota, and Harvey Elliott rotating between 2 spots on the right side. And then we have Gravenberg, Jones, and Luis Diaz fighting for 2 spots on the left. It is ugly. Absolutely ugly. And so, this is not even including Soboslai in the picture. Ironically, this rotation only comes to the fore because Salah and Trent are out of the picture. Oh, sorry. Most importantly, Wataru Endo is not in the picture. Yes, sorry about that. Because we don't have an out-and-out defensive midfielder, we don't know who the attacking midfielders are. So I would argue, like, if you watched the beginning parts of the Bournemouth game, especially, without Endo, right, McAllister was playing DM, and he dominated so much of possession that none of Liverpool's wide forwards got a sniff. It was only through like going absolutely direct, right, early on, just playing one long ball and pressing Bournemouth centre backs directly, that really got Liverpool, got the job done. So it's Liverpool are basically turned into Spurs, where whatever big chances they get, they don't put away, and whatever small chances they get, they do well with. So I think as much as for me, I'd love to recommend somebody like Joe Gomez, right, who did well at left back, solid stuff, and then he got his assist when substitutions were made, and he flew over the right back. I think Trent Alexander-Arnold coming back from injury as soon as possible is going to be a big factor that will change the way Liverpool play again. So this is why I say Liverpool are a hot mess, because at any point in time they can score 3-4 goals. No one's going to disagree with that. Who scores, who assists, nobody knows. Absolutely. Nobody in their right mind right now can even say we can look at the past 2.5 legit games from Liverpool and predict what will happen in the next 3. Nobody. Because that's how it is right now. No philosophy, no informed player, and like I would not be surprised if Diogo Jota blanked next game. Absolutely
I
not.
will say one info. I want to give a shout out to Connor Bradley. He was at my club, Bolton, last season, and he was Player of the Year. Him and Trafford. Trafford's now Burnley goal. They were both excellent. Bradley was something else. A shout out to him, and all of Liverpool fans were just saying how amazing he was in. I think it was the first leg when he got the assist, and I think he got an assist against Bournemouth as well, right? Because Diogo Jota miskicked. I don't know if he got awarded that in the Bournemouth game, but Bradley cut it back to Jota and he like spooned it and fed himself, and then he finished it off right for one of his goals. Coming back to Jota's goals being a little bit fortunate.
He actually mishit. No, he completely missed the shot.
Yep.
He
spooned
completely
it.
missed the shot. The ball came off his standing leg. which beat the defender.
Did Bradley get the assist for that?
Yes,
Yeah.
he did.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's fair.
I'm just checking. Yeah.
So yeah, shout out to he'll be gone because Trent being back, but I just want to shout him out because he was so good at Bolton last year, our Player of the Year. He's done really well as he stepped into Liverpool, and even Klopp himself has said he's done a really good job. Tien, your thoughts on non-Salah Liverpool people?
Yeah, so I just quickly mentioned that FPL Freddy in the chat just said that Robertson is back as well. So yes, he is back on the bench for the League Cup. So yeah, whether he's fit enough to start games, we'll see. But yeah, so both Chan and Robertson are now back potentially. So I still have Tran in my team. And with the news that he's potentially back fit for the next game week, he's definitely a keep for me. I bought him when he was slightly cheaper than 8.5, so and it's money is not really a problem for me when I already have him. So that's number one. I think Jota, you've made all the good points about his sort of potential problems, but all of those problems I think are more for if you hold him long term. I think Jota is someone that you only get a window of 4 game weeks between now and game week 25 to own him, because when it looks like Salah will be out at least for that period, and especially if Liverpool get a double in 25. So he's obviously still compete with Gakpo and Diaz as well. I think there's still 3 fighting for 2 or 4 fighting for 3 spots up front. But I think he start most game when Salah is still away. Chelsea and Arsenal are the next 2. Not ideal, but Liverpool are still very good in terms of attack. So I think they can score against any team. And then it's Burnley at home, followed by the potential double. So you could either go in now, punting that they do have a double, or you can wait until 24, when they play Burnley at home. Then you can have had him for 2 game weeks, and then you can sell him in blind game week 26 for someone else. 2 game weeks of Jota with 3 games, I think he can still have a good chance of getting a big chunk of points from him, because he's quite explosive, right? His ceiling is quite high when he's on it. So I think that's the kind of like, you've got a window to own Jota. After that, when Salah is back, I think then he'll have to compete with a few others for the starting spot. I think Darwin has to be in contention. Even though he frustrates everybody, but he has been putting up great underlying stats. He always looked dangerous. He's always a nuisance for any defense. It just the matter of which shooting boots he put on the day. Like some days he put on the good pair of boots and he can score. Other days he will miss like 5 big chances in a game. And you just gotta live with that if you want to go there. He's on my ban list, so I probably won't be going there myself, because I can't deal with that stress. But I think he has great potential, high upside, high ceiling as well on his day. So that's 3.
Ryan, any more Liverpool ones?
So I've got Trent like Tien, so I'm keeping Trent right through that double if they get the double in 25. The other player would be that, like you guys all mentioned about Jota. I think Jota is the only one I would trust. It's just like a tried and tested FPL asset. And like Tien mentioned, right, you could wait till 24 and then get him. And 2 game weeks is still good because Jota, I feel like Jota is those players that doesn't matter. He's like KDB in some instances, you could say. because even if he comes off for like 20, 30 minutes, you still think he can get you some returns. So I don't mind Jota as an option even for 2 game weeks. And also, if you kind of wait, you might get more information on Salah by then. And then you can kind of decide, okay, do you want to save money for Salah and go to Salah? Or if Salah is not going to be available, like Lucien mentioned before, right? If Salah hasn't played 90 minutes by game week 24, then you're probably not going to get Salah for 25 as well, because the chances of him playing both might not be as high. So then maybe you go and get Jota for that double in 25 as well. So 24, 25. So there is the option of waiting and getting more information. So I probably might do something similar to that, where just 24, look to see whether I get Jota or try and find a way to tear up my squad for Mohamed Salah if he's playing in 24. But yeah, that's where I'm at right now. Darwin Núñez, one of those players who's again like on my do not buy list, but I can see the potential need for trying to get him in if you can't afford a Salah. Like, we can think that we want to get Salah now, but it's not going to be easy. So you'll have to cover Salah by getting a Jota and a Darwin Núñez, which might be easier to do than trying to restructure your entire squad to try and fit Salah and Haaland, and also not sell the likes of a Saka or get a KDB, stuff like that. It's going to be much more harder to do that. So yeah, that's the only circumstance that I might think of Núñez, but right now only Trent and Jota.
So let's go on to Chelsea. This one might be a bit easier because they're going to blank in 26. For me, it's just Palmer, 5.8 million, pens for minute price pick. The rest are just too inconsistent. I was excited by Nkunku. We finally saw him. He looked good. Injured again. Jackson's at AFCON, but he should be back now. But they just never know what Chelsea's going to turn up. Apart from Palmer, I'm not looking at any Chelsea. I know Ryan's going to mention who's someone who I was looking to bring in for Corey. But again, if they're going to blank, if you're going to load up on Liverpool for the double in 25, you're not really going to want to, unless you are going to free hit, you're not going to want to add more Chelsea or Spurs to your teams because you're going to be stuck. Me, it's just Palmer from Chelsea. I just keep saying they're almost there, and then they click, and it's like, yeah, they're really, really good, they're doing it, and then do another 2-3 games of rubbish. But we'll talk about that in the match point. But yeah, for me, just Palmer. Ryan, who
Yeah, you meant Palmer and like you mentioned Gusto, but I will add that right now I wouldn't even go and get any Chelsea player. Like, if you have Chelsea players, you keep them. You don't go and buy any extra new ones, because I feel like they're not going to double in 25. You use your transfers on players that are probably going to double, and also we know they're blanking in 26. Depending on how the FA Cup fixtures go, they could potentially blank in 29 as well. And you're basically looking at from 25 to 29, they play City, blank, Brentford, Newcastle, blank. Here, I'm potentially thinking, I went and tinkered a bit, and I was looking at how do I even fit in a Liverpool play extra one. And I was like, I either sell Palmer or I sell Saka. So that's where I was in, potentially, because of trying to navigate the whole not wanting to free hit in 26. And Palmer was one of those sacrificial moves. So yeah, that's why I'm just like, don't buy Chelsea players. Whoever you have, you play with them, and yeah.
But that's it. Palmer could be a sell. Like Chelsea are that. Like Palmer's. If Palmer was more expensive, I'd sell him because he's got Liverpool, Wolves, Palace, City blank, Brentford, Newcastle blank. Like you might as well sell if they're going to blank two games in the next 7. What's the point in holding? But he's 5.8 million. Not an issue. Don't go anywhere with Chelsea. Tien, anyone from Chelsea?
Yeah, same. I only have Palmer, and yeah, if for whatever reason anyone who didn't have Palmer, yeah, I wouldn't be buying now. For the reason that you've just said, and yeah, at the moment I'm not thinking of selling him because I think I'll just bench him in 26. But yeah, as Ryan said, who knows? Coming then is like, there's no one else I can sell. I probably wouldn't sell. But yeah, the problem is like, everyone bought him for cheap, right? He's gone up a lot, and so you won't get a lot of money by selling him, unless you go like all the way down to like a bench fodder. Maybe then you can save some money to do something else. But generally, you would want to sell someone that can make you some money to fund like a Salah or someone else. So yeah, unfortunately, most of the time Palmer wouldn't help you with that. And like the situation in my team is that Palmer was kind of like the 7/8 attacker. Like, I got him initially to rotate with Solanke, um, which of course I'll have a benching headache yet again this time, and of course this time I won't have the bench boost to to get me out of it. Um, but I think the argument now is that if you have Palmer, he's got to be starting every game, so he's got to be your 7th attacker. Um, so so that is why, like, selling someone like Saka, for example. And if you got like 7 good attackers, selling a Saka all the way down to like a Garnacho or someone like will give you a lot of money to get a Salah back, and then your Palmer become like a starter every week. Is a very sensible strategy, and it will give you a good team structure as well, compared to selling Palmer. Because selling Palmer, as I said, doesn't give you a lot of funds to play with. So the benefit of selling him is very, very minimal.
That's if he was 7.5 or something, sell him for like Dota, but he's not,
Yeah.
so just bench him. Lucian, any Chelsea guys on you?
Yeah, sorry, I was just pretending to be muted. Well, the funny thing about Chelsea is that whenever I do analysis of Chelsea players, there's always this temptation to try and find somebody other than Palmer, to promote in Chelsea attack. But yes, it's true that majority of their good fixtures have come and gone, and so we've got to acknowledge that. I'm trying to do equal analysis, figuring out where Chelsea are weak, because that's what we do, right? When Chelsea hit a hard patch, we cannot assume that Chelsea are top 6 material at the moment, and that's yeah. In some sense, I do have one eye on selling Palmer. Just make that quick 0.1 and sell. I just feel that in the bigger picture, because Palmer is kind of like a premium player in sheep's clothing, I feel that the question we have to ask ourselves is, which of these Chelsea players would be fixture proof, rather than trying to look at fixtures and buy the right players. So in some sense, I think that's where Palmer's attraction is, the fact that he can turn up against any sort of opposition, whether on penalties or whatever. I think the only thing that's in his way is that, number one, Palmer's not exactly prolific on counter attacks, so when they play against better teams, Palmer's not part of the equation. Secondly, even if they do dominate the ball, usually as an underdog, you're going to be reliant on your free kicks. And that's where I feel Ben Chilwell is going to come back into the equation as their corner taker. But of course, Raheem Sterling randomly taking free kicks and scoring them is also going to be part of the conversation. This is probably why I'll be selling Palmer in the near future. Alternatives are going to be very hard to find. Very, very hard. Like blanks or not, right? For all these factors mentioned. But yeah, it's gonna be that sort of thing, right? We all have to face a hard 50-50 decision whether to go maximum minimum to afford Haaland, Salah, KDB, or we are, gonna spread our funds, have some Arsenal players, grudgingly, as well as Darwin, maybe, that sort of thing, and like, yeah, just deal with the heart attack and stop watching Premier League games, right? Yeah, I'll take that.
Importantly, whatever you just did, you just cut all the background sound out of your mic. It's lovely now. You don't hear the background. Stopped. I don't know what you did. But sound great now. Lovely voice.
Are you
for
sure it's
lovely
not something you did? I think you
No,
did something.
you guys
'cause
can
I did-
hear it too, right? When his
Yeah.
mic's on, you can hear like a
Oh well. All right.
lovely now. There's no
It's
background
gone now.
noise. Yeah, it's
So
gone. You were
yeah.
just talking, and suddenly I was like, checking my ear. I was like, done. Lovely. So, the match. The match. Back in reverse order then. Starting off with Lucian. You always start us off on our matchups. Match itself, Liverpool at home to Chelsea. What are your...
Well, the hilarious thing is that now that we've some media outlets have dispelled the myth that Chelsea aren't that good. Yeah, narrative favors Liverpool. I think that goes without saying. The question is, who among the Liverpool forwards have the X, sharp enough to actually execute Chelsea here? Yeah. So is it Darwin the sledgehammer, or is it Jota the kitchen knife? I do feel though that tactically I feel at least quite straightforward because Chelsea's attack is not that obvious, but their weaknesses are. I do feel that Ben Chilwell is still a little bit ahead of his time coming back from injury. He did get 60 minutes against Borough in the 6-1 win, but I do not see him starting against Liverpool here. So, it's likely going to be a Colwill. And that just means that whoever plays on Liverpool's right side coming in from the flanks is going to get a hell of a lot of chances because, yeah, Chelsea for some reason, yeah, they do that. Now, having said that, whether we like it or not, Liverpool Chelsea is technically built as a top 6 encounter, right? The media is going to play it up like that. So, everyone's going to be hyped up. And we've already learned our lesson, right? In most cases, big 6 encounters, you throw tactics out the window, you just yeet it away. And, you ask yourself, what's the most direct approach Liverpool and Chelsea can take, with each other, right? If their plan A is not exactly functioning. So I think that's where we began our conversation because try as they might, if you run at Thiago Silva with space, you're gonna get something. Like doesn't matter if you're Luton or Arsenal, right? Just run at Thiago Silva and you'll beat him on a foot race. So yeah, that's where Liverpool's attacking potential will be. And as for attacking Liverpool, I've already said it before, Endo is not going to be available still because Japan are still in the Asian Cup. So how will Chelsea breach the McAllister position? That's where we begin.
Sorry, I just came my thought. um, I got everything up until the last 30 seconds. Just give me a quick recap of the last 30 seconds.
Well, just talk about how Liverpool can potentially attack Thiago Silva and how Chelsea can attack McAllister.
Okay. So in terms of I keep saying it just depends which Chelsea show up, right? Even when Chelsea play well, though, have you noticed that they still panic? They'll be playing really great for 70, 75 minutes, but they'll only be 1-0 up, and then a switch gets flicked on, and they panic. They can't pass anymore. They can't get into positions. They just start playing long ball. So this is what I still think, that Liverpool's always going to press. They're at home. They're always going to attack. Even if a good Chelsea team shows up and they're 1-0 up with 20 minutes to go, Liverpool's still going to push harder and press higher up. And Chelsea will just switch back and still end up kicking the ball away and panicking and giving it up. So I still think regardless, it just feels like it's going to be a Liverpool 3-0. Nunes, you said it yourself, Nunes is the sledgehammer, right? So he's going to be the one that's probably up against Thiago Silva. Silva's so experienced. I don't even think I think he's who can get into Nunes' head and wind him up. I think Nunes is, as a defender, easier to get into his head and start winding him up as well, rather than Nunes dominating Silva. I don't think anyone could dominate. I know he can be a bit slow at times, but I still think he's fast defender. But Chelsea, I can't see where Chelsea's goals are going to come from. I can see where Liverpool can get goals from. I know it's a bit messy. It's about rotation and where down the middle they've still not got a 6, and they keep rotating players in midfield and up front. But I can't see Chelsea stopping that constant press from Liverpool. I can't see if Jota is back on the right wing. said he'll get lots of chances down that side. If Trent's back as well, that's going to improve the side. And I just don't see, with Nkunku out and Jackson out and Breuer up front, I just don't see goals coming from, because Breuer's a kind of the striker that Van Dijk and Konate would love to play against, because it's the quick turning nippy strikers that Van Dijk's been turned by this season. And if it's power versus power, Konate and Van Dijk is fine with Breuer. If anything, I'd say Madueke getting a shot down the middle cause more problems. I just can't see down the middle. Enzo, too defensive, so you're going to get Conor Gallagher. Is he going to get the better of McAllister? I just don't see it. Just don't see anything, good or bad, Chelsea showing up here. Not even goals for Chelsea, let alone win. Just my take on it. And the fact that I think Liverpool have kept 2 clean sheets in the last 2 games, and they're still pushing for the top of the league. The focus, I know they've got the cup final, but they're not bothered about Europe. It's all about the Premier League. I think Chelsea's got too many injuries still. Players coming back from injury, not fully fit. Are they going to get rested? Yeah, I just don't see anything from a Palmer pen. Maybe a Palmer pen. But apart from that, can't see who's going to create goals for Chelsea and create for who. Sterling, we all know Sterling can get the positions, but fluffs chances all the time. If Mudrik's on the other wing, he's going to fluff. Breuer down the middle. Can't see him beating Van Dijk. Jen?
Yeah, I think for Chelsea, it's just gonna be Sterling, getting a pen for Palmer. That's always gonna be written in the star, right? So if they get any goals, I think it's gonna be some sort of a scrappy one like that. Yeah, I think Liverpool's gonna be too good for Chelsea. Still the best attack in the league at the moment, even without Salah. Trent is back though, or looks like Trent is back. Potentially Robertson as well. So yeah, I think Liverpool gonna be too much for Chelsea. So whether it's gonna be a 2-0 or 3-1, and yeah, Palmer. I think Palmer. Combe in the chat mentioned the Palmer up top. I think he did play up top again. Was that Middlesbrough in the first leg of the League Cup, and I don't think he looked very comfortable in that position.
But in yesterday, he
correctly.
scored 2 from the 10 position.
Yeah, so he played 10 very well, or slightly from the right, but up top as number 9, I don't think he's, or at least for with the limited minutes that he's been playing there, it's not really good. So I think as a 10, and with Sterling causing a bit of chaos in the box and getting a scrappy penalty, that's probably where they get the goals from. So yeah, 3-1 for me. That's where I think.
I think Madueke should get a chance. Maybe speed will beat it. Just something that pops to my mind about Chelsea with how inconsistent. Just don't see an identity for them. I don't see a play style from them. I don't know what I'm expecting. Like, when you watch Liverpool, it's a high press, all that attack. You look at Big Ange at Spurs, right? Crazy high line, all out attack. Porro basically going as a centre mid / right winger at times, all over. When you look at Spurs, you're going to get a 4-2-3-1, but I don't see anything special. It feels like I'm playing Football Manager and I'm just selecting 4-2-3-1, and that's where the players are going. Like, if I'm against Chelsea, Sterling's right wing, he's just going to be right wing. Mudrik's just going to be left wing. Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez, they're just going to be central defensive midfielders who might join the attack late. Like, I don't feel I see anything with Chelsea. I don't see an identity. I don't feel there's something about them that's tactically special. An individual talent has spent a lot of money for this team. I just don't see them. I don't know if they're not being utilized properly. I don't know if it's a watch thing, it's a Chelsea thing, it's a player thing. But you look at Aston Villa and the way that Unai Emery's got them playing, and I say it when I've got Diaby and Bailey, right, and they'll switch. They'll play like a 4-4-2. Bailey will sometimes be behind Watkins and then run it. You can feel, the wing backs get forward, especially Dino Moreno on that left side. You feel you expect something. I don't know if it's just me, but every time I watch Chelsea, I just see them in a 4-2-3-1. We've talked about phases of play and transitions they don't change to like a 2-3-5-1 or something like that or whatever, right? You don't see that formation change at any point apart from being a 4-2-3. Like their number 9 is always going to be in the number 9 position. They won't drop to a false 9 and Palmer goes, but I just don't see anything like that. Maybe it's just me. Guys, feel free, but I don't see an identity at Chelsea. Maybe it's just too many players new. Brand new manager. I say brand new for this season. So many new players, a new manager, coaching staff, new board, chairman, directors, whatever. Maybe they just need another year or two. But I just still feel as though they don't fully know what is going on tactically. Lucian, you're nodding your head. You feel similar?
Well, I've been following this fiasco for half a season now, and it's oh, there goes my voice. It's quite hilarious because there was okay, they're basically suffering the Man United problem, but they're like fast aging because they're promoting a lot of players into superstar status and implying that they'll revolve around the likes of Mudryk and Enzo Fernandez, who had like 100 million contracts, right? And then at the tail end of last season, right, they shed like a whole bunch of dead wood, such as Koulibaly and such. So with Pochettino coming in, once again, everyone is expecting like a level up. You know, it's all about managing expectations. So expectations can only carry you so far because when the results don't match, the manager has to do something, right? And this whole idea of Cole Palmer coming in really is just about like introducing something different to something really, really bland. Rob, I think you nailed it on the head when you say that Chelsea's players are exactly one-dimensional. Because I think the game, in some sense, has also passed Pochettino by. Because honestly speaking, Pochettino, as part of his newer old boys days, right, when training under Bielsa, has only learned how to play one way. So the difference between him and somebody on the extreme of that spectrum, such as Bielsa, is that, well, Pochettino's man management skills are just that little bit better because he's able to figure out who's like the good guys in the team, and then he fosters that spirit, and that's why he was quite highly rated at PSG. So now that we're in this situation where nothing is working for Chelsea, like Pochettino's got a decision to make, right? Because he doesn't have, like you said, a plan A, because there was like the whole high press thing is something of a concept from 10 years ago, and you cannot introduce that now because most teams in the league have figured out how to play a coordinated press. So Pochettino's concept is not new anymore, and people just have to deal with that. So, I mean, to be fair, if your players are good but your concept is not new, you will still end up mid-table. So in that sense, Chelsea are matching their expectations. But tactically, if we as FPL players want to invest in somebody, we obviously want somebody special, right? And there just isn't anybody special in that Chelsea team right now. Right now, until some philosophy changes. And that's the sad bit.
A lot of money behind potential other than actual could come back to bite them because buying on potential, that many players bought purely on potential. Ryan, final thoughts on the Liverpool game itself?
Chelsea, where will they score? Like you guys have mentioned already, I think like Sterling either gets fouled in the box or Palmer himself gets fouled in the box and there's a penalty probably. I think Liverpool would probably edge this, but I don't think it's going to be a high scoring game. And I go to Combe, he said a lot of nil-nils in this fixture, and I went and looked at the past fixtures between these two. 1-1, 0-0, 0-0, 0-0, 0-0, 2-2, 1-1, 1-0 win to Chelsea, 2-0 win to Liverpool. And then only you have like the 5-3, which was in 2020. So there's been a lot of draws and either very low scoring game. And then we had the fixture at the start of the season, which was also 1-1 draw, which we didn't expect Chelsea to play like that, but they did. However, away from home, they aren't as great compared to their home record. So I expect Liverpool to probably either 2-0 or a 2-1, probably. But I expect a tight game. I won't be surprised with a 0-0 as well, to be honest, because Liverpool also have these moments where they create a lot of things. It depends if Darwin Núñez finishes it or not. So it could also end up in a 0-0, and I won't be surprised.
I see it. I think Chelsea will sit. I think it's 2 or 3. Let's move on to Spurs against Brentford. I put Toney, man in the middle there. So first, looking at Spurs without Son. So Liverpool without Salah, Spurs without Son. Again, beware potential blanks. It looks like, 26 is going to blank for Spurs, right? So I think it's a similar situation. Like, I've got Porro. I think he's fantastic. Look, we have to have 3 defenders, right? That's the game of FPL. You must start 3 defenders. For me, for his price, form, fixtures, his potential point ceiling, he is in the top 3 defenders. If you put all those things together, he's almost a must for because if you have to start 3 defenders pretty much every week, he's in the top 3. If you put all those things together. Charleston's up to 11.8% ownership. He's got 6 goals in 6 games. But when Son and Madison pictured in training, he's back. I'm not saying this game week he's going to be getting 90 minutes. But when Son and Madison are back, I don't think he's in the 11. I don't think Richarlison's in the strongest team. Because Madison will go to where Kulu's been filling in. Kulu will go back up into 3, and it'll be Son, Kulu, and Johnson. Or Son down the middle, Kulu, Johnson. Maybe Richarlison will go middle, Son left. We don't know. But anyway, I just don't think it's one of them where I understand he's got the points, and I'm not looking back at his previous goal. 6 goals in 6 games sounds fantastic. He sounds like a must-have midfielder, right? But he's got from game week 16 to since he started scoring, he's got an XG of 3.64, and he's overperformed his delta by 2.6. He's had 19 attempts in 6 games, which is basically 3 attempts a game. I don't think that's particularly good for a striker. When I've watched him, it's like, what was it? I think in those first 2 games, it was like 1 shot, 1 goal, or 1 touch, 1 shot, 1 goal. And he gets pulled off after 70 minutes. It's one of those when I felt about Trent, I think it's gone for Richarlison. The time to get Richarlison was when Son went to AFCON. To bring him in now when they're going to blank in a couple of game weeks and the fixtures aren't amazing for them. They've got Everton away. They've got Brentford, Everton away, Brighton at home, and Wolves. If you've got Richarlison, you hold him, but I won't be bringing him in unless you're going to free hit in 26. But apart from looking at when Madison's back, because I've always loved Madison and I've owned him pretty much every time he's been fit. Wouldn't be going. Porro's just the one for me. No other from Spurs, particularly. Even with Richarlison's good form, 6 in 6, I'm still not really swayed towards him. But maybe that's just me. But Madison will be on my radar when he's back playing for them. Ryan, thoughts on Spurs?
Same thing with I said with like Chelsea and Parma and whatnot. If you have the players, you keep them. If you don't have them, you don't necessarily go buying them. Basically, Poro, like you said, probably top three fullbacks right now, or in FPL defenders. The question I'm having is how the hell do I keep him in that blank and not have to sell him or stuff like that? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Because I bought him early as well, so you have a lot of value tied up in him as well. So kind of have to just figure that out. But Richarlison has done well, and I think will continue to do because Spurs' fixtures are still good, even with the blank considered and all. The fixtures still like the 29 something are still pretty good. It's only like after that part where everyone's thinking of wildcarding is when Spurs' fixtures just like take a turn and it's just horrible. But until then, it's pretty good. So I see the temptation for Richarlison, but like mentioned, once Son is back, probably by game week 24, and then you just Richarlison is back to the bench. So the time to have had him is right now. That's ongoing until like game week 24. After that, it's like no.
Jen?
Yeah, same. So I only have Poro. And he's a long-term keep for me. I can easily manage to bench him in 26, so that's not going to be a problem for me. The Richarlison, I've already made the call on Richarlison last week or the week before. Eyeing the keeping an eye on the blind game because yeah, it's definitely not time to buy now. I mean, if you own, it's still a great option. Still got a couple of good fixtures, potentially captaincy option as well for this game week. But if you don't have that, I don't think he's a buy because you got like maximum 5 free transfers between now and 26, right? If you buy him and then sell him, that's two free transfers just to get one player and remove him. And as he said, once Son is back, Madison is back. I think we can easily just wait until after 26, see whether they have a blank or not, have a game or not in blank game week 29, and figure out who is the best option out of those midfielders to buy. Yeah, I think I agree with you that Richarlison by then is probably not going to be the top candidate anymore, as he's worse for the last few weeks.
Lucian? Any Spurs players on the eye?
Why? I mean, every man and his dog has Pedro Porro right now. What more do you need? This needs a little bit of a zoom out onto the big picture, right? Because before I actually focus on Spurs, we need to understand that everyone's gonna be fixated on a 3-5-2 right now because of KDB, Salah's return potentially, and like when we buy a Haaland, I think people are more content looking for value in the 5 million bracket for a midfielder compared to a striker, right? So yeah, 3-5-2. Everyone's gonna be like on either Cameron Archer or some 4.5 cheapo. And then this brings about the point where we ask ourselves, right, who do we want in our midfield five? Because everyone's gonna have like Salah / KDB, everyone's gonna have Cole Palmer, and everyone's gonna have like some Arsenal player that they cannot get rid of. I really would like to ask the panel, like, what do you guys feel, right? Besides Saka, Palmer, and Salah / KDB, like, who else would you want in there, right? Because 2/3 of us probably have Foden. The other 1/3, I mean, I don't want to really put Bernardo Silva in this conversation, but yeah, he's there. But for everyone else that's like listening to this monologue, so to speak, it's difficult, right? Because we're all like looking for value in the 7 million bracket, which has come and gone, right? I think the 7 million bracket for players died once Mitoma got injured, and yeah, barely anybody's fishing for value. Right? We're either going really, really, really low, or we're going really, really high. So Richarlison awkwardly is in between. And this brings about the concept of a 7 million midfielder, right? Because we were banging about 6.5, 6 million playing as strikers, Mbomo, Mitoma, a whole bunch of other 6 million guys. And now they're all gone, literally, right? Now we're dealing with Cole Palmer. We loved Huang before he left for the Asian Cup. And we love Pedro Neto now, sometimes, maybe, or sometime in the future. So what is a 7 million midfielder? Do you want him to perform like a 9 million midfielder before you bring him in? Or do you expect him to be like slightly better than the 6 million guys that we used to have and love? like a slightly more expensive version of an ugly of an ex-girlfriend that was like a 6 out of 10. Ha! What a pun. Yeah. I would say Richarlison, right? You need to have realistic expectations so that you know when to let him go. Because Spurs, as everyone has mentioned, have every potential to be fixture proof. They can beat City, they can beat, well, I'm not gonna say Man United, but they can beat Liverpool, right? Arguably. And yeah, the fact that they have so much potential, right? With Madison potentially coming back, with two fullbacks that do wonders, and for me, at least, I feel that Spurs right now have gone through way too many changes, and it's not just up top. I feel that when both Star and Bissouma became unavailable due to AFCON, I think their identity changed massively. Like, I don't think anyone's really picked that up yet. The fact that like Spurs have zero creativity, even if the fullbacks are involved, and I mean, you've got Bentancur and Oliver Skip in the attacking midfield role. Yeah, they need Madison back. Otherwise, I would say Spurs are going to score under 2 goals a game regularly. I would say so. That's why I'm just like, yeah, you hold Pedro Porro for the set pieces and the magic that he does once in a while, but that's about it. And no one else should be part of the conversation until James Madison's back.
Well, this is my point for later, but the funny thing is, Spurs are getting 2 goals at least a game for those. Are getting the goals. So let's look at Brentford, because now they have a double game week. But don't blank in 6. Have one more fixture than teams. Brentford welcomed back Toney like the Messiah, but he was a very naughty boy. Regardless of that, Brentford missed their talisman, but they have been in an awful run of form. Brentford is the kind of team where they've got, like, apart from Solanke, like sometimes like Bournemouth and Fulham, they're not high in the table, they're not particularly low in the table, and players that have similar price are just better elsewhere. So I haven't been keeping that much of an eye on Brentford, but the fact that they've lost 7 in the last 9, and even though he got a cheeky goal, it was from a free kick, let's just say cheeky, not cheating, when he moved the ball on the foam for a free kick. But apart from that, he didn't look particularly match ready or match fit. So people are really pushing Toney, specifically because they want to get rid of Watkins, which I think is a huge mistake. Watkins isn't, I know he's in a slump, but he's not leaving my side for Toney. Villa are about to go on a green run of fixtures, so I don't know who's going to be selling. I know they've got Newcastle, who have a poor defence recently, and then they've got like Sheffield United and a bunch of green games. But Brentford, even with a double game week, are about to play Spurs, City, Liverpool, and then City again in the next 5. So poor form, value elsewhere. I don't think anyone, including Toney, is making me, even with a double game week, is making me think of bringing in. The fact that Mbermo isn't there still, and Visa, who usually would play some part in that attack, he's out as well. They've got injuries, bad form. Toney's still not completely match fit, so even with the double, no. Wild card, game week 33 to 37, they have like the best 4 fixtures you can have, basically. But before your wild card, I'm not even considering single Brentford player, including the very popular Toney. Ryan, your thoughts on any Brentford?
Fixtures are king, and for Brentford, the fixtures aren't there. So no, thank you.
Not a single player, right?
Oh no. And also like Nogard is also not back. I think he's still injured, so he's also very key to that midfield. But like no, thank you. Pictures are bad.
And the form, 7 losses, not even draw, 7 losses in 9 is really bad. But yeah, this is on international. He might be back soon. No more, no Embuemo. People are just looking to get off Watkins, and Toney is 8 million. I think it's just that simple.
Watkins has really good fixtures upcoming.
I know,
as long as
I know, but people are itching to get rid of him because he's got Newcastle at home, who are still poor defensively. But then he's got Sheffield, Man United, Fulham, Forest, Luton, Spurs, West
as
Ham,
long as
Wolves.
Unai Emery can stop playing 2 right wingers in Aston Villa's starting team.
No, I hope he
then
does
we
because
can.
Bailey's still in my side, so keep that up. Jen, any Brentford players for you? Only catching you.
I'll try to make a little bit of an argument for why people might want to go with him. I mean, he's back from a long time out, so and I didn't watch the game. I watched a bit of a highlight, and I think he played all right. He wasn't taking a lot of shots, but he did, he was involved in creating chances as well. So being the talisman of the team, he's on pen and he's on some free kicks. Obviously, he has the doubles in 25. He has no blinds in 26 and no blinds in 29. So even if Brentford keep losing games, but if they score any goals, like who else is gonna be involved other than so he's gonna be heavily involved in any goal that they score, and on pen as well. And like how powerful being on pen can be. Like they can just get a penalty and then he'll be on potentially bonus point as well. So I think there's a case to go for him. But certainly he's definitely not a priority transfer by any stretch of imagination. So as I mentioned earlier, like the focus of transfer should be on getting City players and potentially Liverpool players as well if they also double. But then by double game week 25, for example, if your team is well set up, you've already triple up on City, triple up on Liverpool, and Watkins is still looking very very poor, or Solanke, for example, is looking very poor. I think Toney can be a good punt for a double, and then you can keep him for a few game weeks until you wild card. It's not a bad option at all, but yeah, certainly not a priority transfer that you must get him now.
But for me, Watkins is, they have great fixtures until 31, and if that's when you go to wild card, Villa's fixtures from 31 to 38 are not great. The thing that surprised me, I forgot to mention it when we talked about Porro. Porro's only 32% owned. Felt like he was like a 40 to 50% Porro, but only 33.2. Lucian, any Brentford players on your mind?
Sorry, I was busy tinkering with my FPL team because
Bringing Brentford
I do
players
want to
in.
point this out.
Is that what you're doing?
Well, I'm just trying to imagine a universe, right? A parallel universe where Watkins and Toney can coexist in the same team. That was my thought process actually. And here it is. Okay, here's the proposal. It's gonna sound great, by the way, because this team does not have Erling Haaland. Because I mean, hear me out, right? The idea here is that like so many managers in the top 10K right now are there because they don't have Haaland. Really, And so in a world that doesn't have Erling Haaland, right? This is the rival. This is the rival team that you set up against Erling Haaland, right? Listen to the midfield first. Salah, KDB, Foden, Palmer, and a 4.5 million guy. Okay, not bad, right? Not bad, right? No Arsenal players in there. Okay. And then no, I've been drinking coffee, not Corona, coffee. Okay. And so up front you have Toney, Watkins, and a forward up to 8 million, 8.1 million actually. So, if you want to go for someone like Isak or Darwin or Joao Pedro, right? That somebody delightfully has. I think there is a universe. There is a possible universe where you can have two Man City midfielders and someone like Kyle Walker at the back. And by the way, this is me still having TAA, Pedro Porro, and Gabriel at the back.
But
So
no
I do
Haaland.
have. I'm just saying, it's there. There is a universe where you can own Ivan Toney and still have Salah and KDB to match that output with a decent squad overall. It is possible.
Just is
That's
that
the only realistic situation I'd own Toney.
is that cognac you cognac or brandy?
I don't know. It's blank. I don't even know what it is. My mom found it.
Well,
you just drink it.
put it down. Put it down. Step away from your FPL team.
Now the other thing that I did tinker with is without Salah. So if Salah is not fit for double game week 25, you can have Diogo Jota instead. And then so up top you can have Haaland, Watkins, and Toney. And then in midfield, instead of KDB, you have Bernardo Silva. So Bernardo Silva, Foden, Diogo Jota, and a Bowen. So that's 4. So you play 3-4-3.
A world where we're sacrificing Haaland and Salah for Ivan Toney.
No. If Salah is not fit by
All right,
game week
okay.
25, then there's no reason to have Salah at all until like wildcard 30, because they're gonna blank in 26 and blank in 29, and they're playing like Man City or something, in between as well. So if Salah is not back by double game week 25, there's an argument for not going with him for going without him until you wildcard in 30.
Yeah, that when we talked way back when about selling Son and Salah or both, that'd be it for me. If Salah's not in this double game week, then I'll sell him and bring him back on a. We won't know. So apart from crazy moves, we're not looking at. So let's go back to the match. Well, let's go to the match. Spurs at home to Brentford. Lucian, what are your predictions, thoughts, ideas? Game's gonna play.
Well, Spurs against Brentford is exactly what we don't want in terms of matchups, because the strength of Spurs plays in the Brentford's hands and the strength of Brentford's plays in the Spurs' hand. It's so weird. Because I mean, we keep thinking of Spurs as someone extremely awesome in open play, right? Adventurous and whatnot. And then we keep thinking of Brentford as a practical side that can score off set pieces, free kicks, corners, whatnot. I mean, I don't know if anyone saw, but that goal in the 3-2 win against Forest, right? That Jensen, when he took his corner, he actually brushed his boots, one on each side. He brushed it twice. And that was the signal for two of his centre backs to rush the near post, draw Forest out, so that one of the other centre back, the third centre back, can glance it home. It's amazing because Brentford have so many corner routines. It's scary. But yeah. Anyway, in that sense, I would say that the irony is Pedro Porro, assisted Richarlison off a corner. And yeah, I think the idea here is that Brentford right now, first things first, we have to understand, will definitely play their defensive 3-5-2. However, because they are missing Rico Henry and Christian Norgard, it's not going to be a super solid 3-5-2. However, Spurs themselves aren't that good in open play either. So I'm going to assume for now that Madison is not fit. Now, ironically, because Spurs have so many holes, someone like Mbomo is supposed to take advantage, who isn't there either. So no Mbomo, no Wisa. Honestly, if you guys can come up with a reason for this game not to be boring, hats off to you, because I see, well, personally, I see a very, very dour game.
You're spot on about the set pieces. I don't know why I remember this, but I remember specifically talking about Brentford's being like the best set piece Premier League side in like over a year, way back in game week 5 against Newcastle. That's because Newcastle were the best at defending set pieces. and Brentford are the best at attacking set piece. So if I'm going to see a goal from Brentford, I only see it from a set, because they've got that many injuries, bad form, whatever. I see Spurs dominating possession and a corner or long throw or cross from a set piece. That's how Brentford might. Just see a lot more ways that Spurs can score, though. I said earlier they've scored at least 2 goals a game in the, and we know how Big Ange plays. Players are coming back. I also don't think Maddison's quite ready to start yet, but I think that the positives for Spurs is their pace on the wings and the pace, and I just don't see was it Roslev and Lewis Potter on the wings being able to stop Brennan Johnson, even Timo Werner. I know he's a bit of a joke, but his setup play, maybe that's how Werner should be used. Use his pace and his setup play, take away his finishing, and give someone else to finish. Might be better. So yeah, I just feel as though they can't deal with the pace, they can't deal with the press, they can't deal with Spurs possession, and Kulu being in the Maddison role. When I got Kulusevski in my FPL side ages ago, that was because I thought he was going to stay in that Maddison role, but he got pushed back into the three, where I don't like having Kulu. But if we've got Werner on one wing, Richarlison down the middle, Brennan Johnson on the wing, and Kulusevski in the 10, I can't see how Brentford are going to. But Brentford might get something from a set piece, but it's going to be all possession, all pushing. And if Maddison is back, he'll be right back on my radar. I think this is a 2-0, 3-0, 2-1, 3-1. Okay. Have a tendency to, and at home as well, they tend to throw away points. Where, yeah, Tien, your thoughts on this match?
I'm gonna base my speculation on nothing. It's just vibes, but I think there's gonna be a lot of goals. I think it's gonna be chaos in both game. In this game from both teams, and there'll be goals from both sides. So I'm just gonna throw myself out there and predict a 3-2 win to Spurs. Just because Spurs love scoring, but they love conceding as well. Like they don't care about clean sheets, I don't feel. So playing the high lines and attacking. So just finger crossed that Porro will be involved in the attack, because I have no hope of any clean sheet for Spurs.
Ryan, thoughts on the match?
Leaning towards Spurs in general, like winning this game. Yeah, they probably won't keep a clean sheet, but Porro will be on set pieces. I just would like to see like how much of his set pieces go away once Maddison is back, and how that kind of affects his like bonus and whatnot. So that's only one thing to kind of keep an eye out for. And then also, we did mention about Richarlison. When Maddison back, will it help Richarlison for like at least the next couple game weeks, and like how the system plays? But yeah, apart from that, nothing too much. Probably 2-1, 2-1, 3-1 to Spurs.
I think as well, Spurs are 5th, right? But only 3 points off 2nd. So I think this is still like a good opportunity for Spurs to go under the radar. When I think it was Tien who was the same as me. We way back when we were predicting who would be the top 4 at Christmas, apart from Villa, right? Just Villa was the one. But feels like this could be an opportunity for Spurs. When I had Kulusevski and I was going to hold him all the time, they've got a good run of fixtures all the way until game week 2. So the blanks in 26 and 29 aren't great, but in terms of the Premier League as a whole, they are fighting for a top 4. So I think this should be a comfortable win. But I said earlier as well, like they've had some iffy results home earlier in the. Depends which Spurs comes. So let's go on to the final point. Back to these two gentlemen. Haaland and Kevin De Bruyne when we talk about captaincy. This is going to be, our minds are going to be more made up after the FA Cup game, because then we'll know more about Haaland and got Kevin De Bruyne, maybe him, or maybe Foden, maybe Bernardo Silva even. I just think a City player is clear. And I've said right at the start of the show, if Haaland gets 20 minutes, I'll buy him. But I might not put the captaincy on him. Because just because he gets 20 minutes, they said they're going to ease him back in. He might get another match of 20, 30 minutes. And captaincy's been so key. Like, my transfers in my team have been good this year. Where I've lost so many points is my captaincy. And I've not done silly ones. I've not, like, captain Roberto Sanchez for Chelsea. I've not done anything mad. It's just any time there's been a player that's got, I've got him and they've got 5 points. The one I was going to captain's got 25 points, which doubles, right? So it just feels as though captaincy is such a key decision that if I don't feel like my captain's going to start, I can deal with Haaland coming off the bench against. I don't think I can deal with my captain Haaland. But that's just me. You can consider Saka at Forest, but I'm not, or any Arsenal player at Forest, but I'm not. Also attack. Haven't been all season. Watkins at home to Newcastle. If Newcastle is bad defensively, I know Watkins is in a slump, but usually they're really good at home. Carlson at home to Brentford. Bad form, and we talked about Brentford, bad form and there. Or maybe a Liverpool player at home to Chelsea, but Chelsea shouldn't be an easy. So it's just, for me, it makes a City player absolutely. So if Haaland, I'm not too sure he's going to start against Burnley, then I'm probably going to lean towards Foden or Bernardo Silva. Probably Foden over my captain. Ryan, your thoughts on captaincy?
Bus captain right now is on Foden. I don't have the likes of a Kevin De Bruyne or a Jota. Not going to put it on Saka because I don't trust Arsenal's attack in terms of like Saka getting involved as much in terms of returns. I've already captained Watkins in the past, got burnt by it, not going there again. As long as I want to ideally put it on a penalty taker, but this week the only penalty taker that I could trust is probably Palmer, and even then it's a tough fixture, so bus captain on Foden for the moment. If Haaland plays like 20 odd minutes and we get news that he is starting, then definitely captaining him. There is a possibility we could get that news if he's starting or not, but yeah, it all depends on whether we get news if he's starting or not. But yeah, for now, bus captain Foden. I don't think that will change.
Yeah, he's my
for
bus
the
captain.
moment.
We won't get City news because they're not on the day of the dead.
No, but they still sometimes tend to get that news if it's like a late. It's happened before, but anyways.
Our deadline is like 2 a.m. my time.
Yeah.
On the Wednesday morning, and they don't play till 30 a.m. the next.
Yeah.
Very unlikely to. Again, captaincy.
Yeah, same. So currently bus on Foden because yeah, I agree that the City fixture is the best. So I think it's probably a good thing to do is to have some sort of rules for yourself in terms of like what does Haaland news have to be for you to make that call on either getting him or getting him and captaining him. So for me personally, if he doesn't make the squad against the Spurs game, then it's a no-no. If he does make the squad but doesn't have any minutes, it's a no-no. And if I'm not captaining him, I'm not getting him either. I'm just like, yeah, I'm just gonna leave it. I'll just make one free transfer and roll the second, and then get him when he's actually fit and ready. But if he make the squad and play, say, 30 minutes, then I might be tempted to get him and captain and risk the captaincy on him as well. So that's probably where I'm leaning in terms of like looking for some indicators. Obviously, we hope that Pep might give some info away in the press conference, but yeah, that's very, very, very 50-50. Of course, he's been posting pictures of him in a training ground, but yeah, you never know. Like you can't just looking at a still picture of him in training. So yeah, he need to be playing some minutes, some actual minutes. I don't think KDB is a captaincy shout for me if I owned, because he's clearly indicated that he's not starting. So why would you captain someone who is going to be on the bench? I know a lot of people will captain him just because he's already hold. Like, oh, if he could do it in the 21 minutes against Newcastle, he can do it again in Burnley. I don't think that's how football works, because you need minutes to score goals. That's just fact. Um, Alvarez is a clear alternative. If someone own Alvarez and Haaland is potentially out, then Alvarez is a standout option as well. Beyond City, there's a lot of options, but none of them seem to stand out. So Richarlison against Brentford is a shout. Watkins and Saka definitely have decent fixture, but I think both have lost a lot of trust from from recent experiences. So, but yeah, they have good features. Bowen can be decent as well, but depending on, I think Kudus will be back, but I think Paqueta will be more important. Right? Whether Paqueta is fit or not will have more impact on Bowen, I think. And Liverpool, don't forget Liverpool asset like Jota or Darwin can be captaincy shout as well against Chelsea. So yeah, if Haaland is not back, I think it's gonna be wide open again, which is exciting.
Lucian, final thoughts on captaincy?
I'd like to congratulate all the people who captained KDB last game week. I don't know how many people in chat would have done that, but do it again, man. Do it again, please. Do it again. Now, as for Haaland, I do believe that if for some people who would have held him from back then until now, based on training photos, whether he has long hair or not, I still think it's worth the effort to captain him. Only because I feel that this week itself, the potential for a haul is very low. So in that sense, I do feel that even if Haaland comes on and gets like 1 appearance point and 4 points for a goal, a 5-point captain as a minimum isn't too bad. Now, however, where I am now, because I don't own Haaland, is that I have the captaincy on Watkins, and honest to God, I am expecting the same returns. Really, 6 points or less. I'm not even thinking upside of 6, but I'm pretty sure most people who own a striker will know that. Yeah, if a striker scores a goal, more likely than not, he'll get 6 to 8 points. So I think yes, City players have the best captaincy potential. I think that doesn't have to be said, but yes, with Julian Alvarez playing a bit part role and Foden, triggering certain people's blood pressure. Yeah, you. The most important thing here, at least in this particular game week, is that you make a decision and you have to back that decision. You don't do it because someone else recommended it. I think this is one of those game weeks where, like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. Every pick has its flaws. There's no perfect pick. And the best bit, honestly, the best bit is that we don't have a fallback captaincy option. Most weeks when we know all the players with good fixtures are failing, we usually fall back on like a Salah against Newcastle or a Haaland against Chelsea sort of thing, and we'd feel okay about it, because that's what the common sense person would do, right? If fixtures aren't overwhelmingly good, you go with the guy in form. But now Salah and Haaland are both unavailable, so just pick. Just pick and be guilt free about it, man. And that's kind of why I'm inviting the KDB pick, because honestly, if KDB doesn't haul, I think you'd still be okay. You wouldn't like go on a whiskey drinking spree or something, yeah. Um, yeah. So that's where I am. However, I will say that yes, please everybody be reactive to news as much as possible, and this is the week to be extremely sensitive to news. Um, because as for myself, I have exact money to turn my 4.5 million third forward into Haaland for exact money without a hit. So that's what I've been preparing for. But if Haaland's not fit, I have any amount of money to turn, people into KDB and whatever it is. Yeah, so that's what everyone should be like looking at really. If you can't have plan A working, what's the next move? Yeah, so that's about it. That's my policy.
I'm literally Archer to Haaland, and if Haaland's not fit, Archer to. All right, I think that's it, guys. Want to chat about with Blues boys, Blues brothers back, and news on the chips, blanks, and the. Good. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed it. We should be back next week. Where it next week? Looking at it, we'll be mostly done with this game week next week, just in time for the game week 23. Oh yeah, next week should be fine. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Maybe like and subscribe if you do. Keep an eye out for shorts as well for our full game week player pick reviews and players to pick for the next full game week. It does include double game. Thanks for watching. Always, guys, good luck and